So after sacking Battleford, you have the Métis going back to the reserve, pursued by the Canadian military, back to Cut Knife. And looking here, here's the actual site of the battle. And what's really interesting from the view on top of the hill is it is really difficult to see the ravines surrounding the hill. This is the view you have, and it is literally impossible to see, into the ravine surrounding it. And so this artist depiction here, you have, Canadian soldiers surrounded, being shot at. And this is not the best artwork. This one gives a little bit better view. You had the Canadian soldiers going to attack the tents village set up by the First Nations, and then being discovered before they could attack. Women and children were evacuated, and the First Nations fighters then went into the ravines surrounding. So the soldiers were up on the plateau, Cut Knife Hill, and the First Nations fighters would come up and attack, and then back down into the ravine, hidden. And much like the Métis encounters, were much better shots and were inflicting significant casualties on the Canadian troops. The Canadian troops, at risk of being surrounded and overwhelmed, then started to withdraw. As we see here, this is what we were seeing, is the withdrawal. And Poundmaker prevented his fighters from attacking and overwhelming and wiping out the Canadian troops that were there, which would have been very much doable. He saved many lives by, calling off his fighters when they had them basically at their mercy. In Batoche, Riel decided to make his stand. Unlike many of the other battles where the First Nations and Métis had geographic advantages, this one was set up very much at a disadvantage. You can see here where Batoche was. It is lower to the ground, and then therefore much easier to shoot out with cannons and Gatling guns and rifles, etc. Not the most defensible position. And so we see here probably more troops than were actually there, more firing at them, just charging over the open field, not quite accurate. It was more of a siege than what is shown here. There was some significant fighting at Mission Ridge, Canadian military trying to storm and being forced back, basically running right at people, shooting at you, very quickly change your mind and say, well, no, let's not do that. This is a recreation of the Métis rifle pits, and this anticipates, trench warfare in World War I, by a good 50 years. From these defensive positions, as long as they had ammunition, the Métis were able to basically prevent any type of large attack. The Canadian soldiers basically not wanting to die being shot by professional hunters as they run across an open field. And so we have a historical reenactor here at Batoche showing what it was like. The rifle pits remain. The actual ones, of course, the wooden palisades and things have long gone, but the earthworks are still there. An artist depiction here again. Would not have seen a suicidal charge like this, but you get somewhat of the idea of what the setup was like. Once the Métis fighters ran out of ammunition, ran out of powder, that's when they were attacked like this and really had no chance. So after the rebellion, you have a dozen Métis ending up in prison. Louis Riel surrendered, stood trial for treason, and the saddest part is that even though almost all First Nations had remained loyal, that they were punished alongside the Métis. This was definitely taken as an opportunity by John A. Macdonald to take action against First Nations and punish them, and punish them for something that they did not do. This was all to make way for the railway, to get First Nations people out of the way,